First settled in the 1600s, it was not until March 3, 1894 that it became the incorporated village of Amityville. In its infancy, the Friendly Bay Village, as it came to be known by the locals, was primarily a farming community that had strong ties to the fishing and boating industries. Salt hay was an important agricultural product that was grown to feed livestock. But the farms and marine industries slowly gave way to the needs of summer visitors in Amityville in search of comforts on Long Island by the cool breezes and beaches of the Great South Bay.
Hello, I'm Dennis Seary. I am the current mayor of the village of Amityville, and I'm proud to be the mayor for our 125th anniversary. A lot of rich heritage in Amityville that we are this year going to do a lot of events to highlight all the great history of Amityville. I've been here myself and my family since 1970. We moved here, and I attended all Amityville High School along with my wife, Nancy Mae Kretz. And our three children also attended Amityville schools up to their graduation. Moving ahead in Amityville, we have a lot of things coming up. We have a lot of positive things, good developments that are happening, and we are making some changes in the village that we feel are necessary to move forward into the different century, the newer century. And some of those are housing developments. And the one thing that myself and the board that is working with me are doing and striving very hard to do is to maintain that character of Amityville in any of these developments that we do, and preserve the history with the architecture of Amityville. Because if you look around at all the old houses, that's the one thing that people always say to me when they come out and visit Amityville. It's just what a beautiful village it is, and the beautiful old houses. That it's just, a lot of people are surprised at how beautiful Amityville is. And I like to tell them, yeah, that's our little secret. Just keep it to yourself, but we are very proud of it. The waterfront community gives a special touch, a lot of characters, and a lot of good people that do great things for the village. We have the beach program. The beach, actually, our prize jewel. It's great to be seeing that being used again like it used to. When I was a kid, back in the day, you go down to the beach and any night of the week there was softball going on. The place was packed with kids running around. It's really good to see all the vibrant life down there. There aren't that many communities on the island that have their own beach. And I'm proud to say that myself and the board are working to even improve that even more now. On behalf of myself and the Board of Trustees, we would just like to wish Amityville a very happy 125th anniversary, and we are very proud and honored to be the board at this time in the rich history of Amityville, and we look forward to continually serving our residents and to preserving the history and great heritage of Amityville. We started this, or thought about it, the Distinguished Resident Award. I actually went to a Village of Babylon event, and they were doing it for some of their residents. And I thought, you know, that's a great idea. We have a lot of distinguished residents here. And when we thought about doing it, first person that popped into our head, without any type of doubt at all, was William Lauder. There was nobody right now more deserving of this award than you are, Bill. And thank you for everything you did for the village and have done for the village. Also, so everybody knows, today is actually the official day, March 3rd, the 125th anniversary and birthday of the incorporation of the village of Amityville. This is the official first day. So, and Bill, thank you very much for all you've done for us. Thank you. Man. This is the official pin. It's the pin. We're going to give it. We started a committee that we're going to give this pin away to whoever else we think may be a distinguished resident of the village. We want to do maybe 2 a year, if that. We want to keep it a very small group, because even though there are hundreds of distinguished residents here, we don't want it to get kind of washed out as a honor to have this pin. So the committee will decide all the parameters of who should receive it and come up with their decision on who will get it each time. And Bill, I'm very proud to be giving this to you for the very first time.
Almost speechless, which is unusual. And I do want to say that as a native-born third-generation resident of the village, seeing it grow somewhat, unfortunately not too much, we have maintained our suburban character, although we're close to the megapolis, and it's convenient to go in there on occasion, but we can always come back. And I do want to say that everything about Amityville is inspiring. We're on the bay near the greatest beach in the world, and we've had singular progress over the years, but always retained our suburban character. And I thank you so much for this honor. I truly am overwhelmed, and I thank you so much for the recognition.
William T. Lauder, born and bred in Amityville, 1922. My interest in Amityville has never lagged, and in coming today I was reflecting on the changes, or some of the changes that I've seen over the years. There have been significant changes made. However, they really haven't affected the lifestyle of the village. The village still has the suburban tinge to it. The thing that strikes me most is the access road, now known as Route 110, Broadway, Amityville. When I was a boy, that was a two-lane road, tree-lined, with beautiful Victorian houses on either side. It was a lovely area, and it was a very pleasant walk from my birthplace on Washington Avenue, which is now the first street north of what is called Sunrise Highway. And as a matter of fact, I even remember on occasion seeing horses and wagons coming down the street toward the village. It boggles my mind to think of a horse and wagon on that thoroughfare today. Heavily traveled as it is, one of the main arteries in the county of Suffolk. We are presently here in the Amityville Historical Society Lauder Museum, which faces north. And to the east of us we have St. Mary's Church, very old, established religious organization. The building, I think, was built sometime in the late 1890s. And then, of course, to the north of us is the Triangle Building, which is the focal point, the identification object, if you will, of the village itself. It has a beautiful turret facing north as you come down 110. The Triangle Building was built in 1892 and has been a identifiable landmark of the community ever since. The population of the village in 1940 was about 5,000, and the population of the entire town of Babylon, of which Amityville is a part, was about 25,000. The significance of that is that after World War II, The town of Babylon, including Amityville, became the fastest growing community in the United States. It caused a lot of suburban growth that we hadn't had up until that point in time. Fortunately, the village stabilized at about 10,000, and that's our population today. In 1932, when I stood on the bridge of the new Sunrise Highway looking to the east, there was nothing but an orange-colored, scarred sand track as far as you could see. There was no development there, no houses, no stores or anything. And we as kids used to say to ourselves, where is this going? Why is this being built? Not realizing, of course, what was going to happen. And what did happen is that Sunrise was not only built 4-lane and further east, but ultimately extended beyond that. So those were the main changes in the community. But as I say, the theme and feeling suburban, rural, as opposed to high-rise New York City type of living did not invade our privacy.
My name is Seth Purdy, and I have lived in Amityville my whole life. My family, on my father's side, the first Purdys came in 1781. I did not know any of those people. As I remember, say about 10 years of age, there was a number of farms here. And my family had one farm of 88 acres for a long time. Well, I worked on the farm, even though at that time it was not owned by my family, but I did work there. And I was told to come and weed carrots. No one had weeded that area before. So from 7 in the morning we had to arrive, and it took from 7 in the morning to 7 at night to go down the aisle once and to come back. We got 50 cents a row, and so I made $1 on that day. What we would call the downtown area, which is still there today, but it was much narrower. And you could easily get across the street at that time, where today I never cross. And there were a number of supermarkets. One was Bohack. They had 2 stores in Amityville, and they remained a service store for a long while, even though A&P had switched over to what we call a supermarket. And Amityville was kind of a shopping area for the surrounding areas of Massapequa and Copiague and so on. We had churches in Amityville. That was a source of gathering together and socializing, I would say. We had the Masonic Temple, which was a very active place for having activities that people would come and attend. When I went to college, then I happened to be walking in Amityville on a weekend, and who was then called the supervising principal of the school district, I knew, and he met me and he said, because there was a shortage of teachers at that time, and he said he could use me, come and see him on Monday. And I thought, I don't think I want to do that. But I did go to see him, and I immediately had a job teaching in Amityville schools. I taught in Amityville actually 29 years, but they gave me credit for 33 years, which helped my pension. Well, the name Amityville means friendly village, so that may be one of the things that is especially known about the community. And, well, in my case, my family had lived here for generations, and even today I know many people. Even though there's many new people that have come to this area, I still know many. In Massapequa, which is a large community today, there were really no businesses, and they had to come to Amityville for food shopping and clothing and so on. Well, the incorporation made the local community control itself and made it kind of unique as a community.
My name is Patricia Kahaney. I'm a volunteer at the Amityville Historical Society. I'm the deputy curator and a past president. I've been volunteering here about 20 years. Carolyn James asked me to talk about an important woman in Amityville's history. So the first woman that came to mind, and I'm sure there were many, is Naomi Williams Griffiths. She was born in 1885 in Amityville. Her parents had been here a long time. She is a descendant of a Revolutionary War doctor who is also from the area, Gilbert Potter. His name is our DAR chapter here in Amityville. What is so important about Naomi Williams Griffiths is that she was a suffragette. She was president of our suffragette club in Amityville, and she personally canvassed every male in Amityville to gain women the right to vote, and which she did, and we in New York State had the right to vote before the rest of the country as women. And I think that's one of the things that make her such a mover and a shaker. She was well educated. She every year presented a scholarship at the high school. And my good friend Seth Purdy always says that she wore a very fancy formal gown in presenting this very nominal scholarship. I'm not sure what it was for. But I also want to talk about her family for a little while. First, her husband, his name was Alfred Starr Griffiths, and he was a hero in World War I, and he got the Silver Star. They lived on Avon Place. They had a beautiful home. They had 2 children. So I think her husband also had a great love of his community and his country. Her grandfather, before the days of the railroad, owned a schooner. And they had a wood company, among other things, and a general store on Merrick Road. And the schooner brought things down the river, and they sold wool in bulk, cotton in bulk, coal, and wood. Her uncles, who fought in the Civil War, also were real movers and shakers in Amityville. They had a lumber company on Route 110 near the railroad station, and they owned a lot of property prior to the railroad and sold it to the railroad. They also were founders of Brunswick Hospital. Her father was the youngest of the brothers. He actually owned in Amityville, off Route 10, in what is now near Southern State, a racetrack. They were an extremely prominent family, and they contributed a lot to this country. But Naomi, I think, was also an outstanding woman in her time.
Well, my name is Emil Pavlik, and actually I'm a junior. My father was here from the 1920s. I was born here in Amityville some 80 plus years ago in the old Brunswick Hospital that is now gone. And that's where I started my life in Amityville. I went to school here, got married here, and my wife and I still live here. We had our kids here. But I got involved in village government back in the 60s when I was appointed to the Park Commission. And we had a Park Commission group that ended up putting a tea dance together called the Mayor's Tea Dance. That was the first Sunday in March. And that was under the guise of Lou Howard, who was our mayor at that time. Little did I know that I would eventually become the mayor of the village somewhere down the line. So in 1987, after serving as a trustee and serving on committees, I was elected mayor of the village of Amityville. I was very lucky and fortunate enough to be the mayor during our 100th anniversary in 1994. All right, so one of the significant parts of our 100th anniversary celebration was the postmark of Amityville on a federal stamp that was sold here. And also I had the honor of canceling the first stamp in front of the Postmaster General and a bunch of the employees with my people from the village. And that was done exactly on the date of March 3rd, 1994. We had a motto we came up with that said the pride of Amityville and the visions for the future, we called it. And that was a significant stamp that we made, and we made a flag out of it, and we were giving out flags with this symbol on there. And it's interesting to realize that that symbol is still used today, and now we're at our 125th anniversary. I've been very fortunate to live here. I was very fortunate to become the mayor. I had 10 great years. So my always thought was, you know, keep it like it is, or keep it where it's friendly, where everybody knows each other. Not where you get driving in and out, you don't even know who your neighbor is. You know, now we know more about people living with us, and to became back to the friendly village on the Great South Bay. And all I can say is I was very fortunate to be part of it. And I thank the people for letting me be part of it. And I was going to be here for many more years to enjoy what I see that's getting better and better.
Joe Cadiz. I'm the past president of the Amityville Historical Society, and I'd like to thank everyone for this opportunity to do this interview. I was very happy that our relatives lived in Amityville because I probably would never have really had any interest in it one way or the other. However, what happened was when I got my driver's license, the first place that I came, I took a ride out on the Southern State Parkway to Amityville. So I'd like to give you a little recollection of what Amityville was like then when I came here in 1971. Starting up around the Southern State Parkway, there was a restaurant called the Acorn Rest that was on the corner of Great Neck Road and Broadway. If you went a little further south, as you moved south, you had Crumanaker's Florist. It was a very, very wonderful old Victorian house with a widow's walk at the top. And that one was on the east side of Broadway. As you came down to the Sunrise Highway, you passed Sunrise and went over into main Amityville. The railroad tracks were on the ground at the time. And I always heard that boom, 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 boom as you were going by with your car. The other thing was that the Triangle building, of course, did not have the turret on it at the time. It was lost in a hurricane at one time. It was replaced in 1994 for the centennial. And of course, Amityville itself, Broadway, when you were in there, there were many, many things gone. Many stores were gone. You had Fisher's Candy, which was there. You had Morales Jewelers. You had Amy's of Amityville. Overall, the village looks much nicer now, personally. There were no trees. All of the Bradford pears were not planted. It was kind of bare there, and a lot of the brickwork that's in the village now is not there. The village has done a lot and a fine job, evidently, in keeping the village, the upkeep of the village, and keeping it nice. The Historical Society was actually formed in 1969, but did not occupy the building where that is right now until 1973. That used to be the Franklin National Bank, originally the Bank of Amityville. That particular organization we're very fortunate to have in the village. Many villages don't have historical societies, and they do a phenomenal job too. As I said, I was past president and enjoy that type of work very much. The house that I'm living in now is the Frank W. Smith house. The Frank W. Smith house was obviously owned by Frank Smith and his wife, Alla Rosetta Half Smith. Frank Smith was one of the signers of the incorporation of the village in 1894. Very proud to live in this house. This house is on the National Register. That was part of the criteria that it was approved for. Now I have here a little token from Amityville. This is a white opalescent milk glass hatchet. Now, you can hardly see it, but it says Souvenir of Amityville, Long Island. And on this side, it says 1894. This is obviously a souvenir of the incorporation of the village. I'm sure I have a lot of souvenirs of Amityville, but there's none of them for 1894 that I could see. All this being said, I'm very proud to have lived in Amityville and be able to actually experience the 125th anniversary of the village. Everyone who lives here very rarely leaves, and so many people come back. Everybody should be very, very proud that we do live in a place like Amityville and celebrate the 125th anniversary.
State Legislature, we have a proclamation recognizing your 50th anniversary of this outstanding program. It's always wonderful to visit this village. It is one of the communities in Long Island that is still very much a village, and you all feel part of that, and that's exhibited here as we look around with the crowd. So we have a proclamation rather, from the state legislature recognizing your 50th year, and it's just a pleasure to be with you. Rich?
Thank you, Senator, and I'm also joined by Brendan Cunningham, who's representing our Assemblywoman Kimberly Jean-Pierre, and of course, we're lucky to have our Congressman here today for a few minutes, Congressman Peter King, and they join me, as well as the town board. We're all dispersed into various areas today. I wish I could dress like Mayor Siri, but we know that is a regular attire even in December for Mayor Siri. So, but we're honored to be able to recognize the Historical Society for all the great that you do, not just in the museum and at the holiday time, but year-round, and helping and working with our historian, Mary Cascone, who is terrific, who runs our Old Town Hall Museum. And we're fortunate to have the partnership with the Historical Society for 50 years. So this comes from us with our love and respect for all that you've done for 50 years, from Tony Martinez Jackie Gordon, Anthony Minetta, Terry McSweeney, of course our town clerk, Amityville's own Jerry Compitello, and Corrine DeSoma, our receiver of taxes, and many 50 more of good luck in the next 50 years. Congratulations, Doris.
Thank you, Supervisor. Let me at the outset thank Supervisor Schaefer and Mayor Siri for giving me a visa to come into Amityville. They told me it expires in 5 minutes, so I'll make this quick. No, very serious. It's great to be here with the Amityville Historical Society, especially on this historic day. Great community, great people. I'm proud to represent you. And again, God bless Amityville, God bless America. Thank you very much.
Established in 1973, the Lauder Museum is operated by the Amityville Historical Society, whose mission is to connect the future generations to those of the past. Located within the museum is a historical research library with an extensive collection of artifacts having to do with the village of Amityville and the surrounding neighborhoods.
Hi, my name is Doris Reynolds, and I have the privilege of being the president of the Amityville Historical Society for 2019 to 2020. This year, 2019, is very significant in the history of Amityville. It's not just the 125th anniversary of the village of Amityville, whom we congratulate, but it's also the 50th anniversary of the Amityville Historical Society. So I thought I would like to share with you one of my favorite artifacts in the museum. That happens to be the flag up here, the flag of the village of Amityville. This flag has special significance because it's been someplace I've never been. Maybe some of you will in the future, but it's been to outer space. And it was carried into outer space by a former student in Amityville High School. Kevin Kriegel went to Amityville High School. He went on to the Air Force Academy. He became a pilot, and then he was accepted into the astronaut program. He was the captain of the Columbia Space Shuttle in 1995, July of 1995. And he took several flags from Amityville, folded up, of course, not in the big frame, to outer space with him. And when Kevin came back to Amityville, he presented a flag to the Amityville Historical Society, which is the one we have framed here, and he presented flag to Village Hall and so on. Kevin also went around to all the schools and spoke to the students about what it's like to be an astronaut and to be into outer space. I think this is terrific because it gives young children in Amityville the chance to realize that they can be and do anything they want to be. Also, in 2015, Kevin became a member of the Long Island Air and Space Hall of Fame at the Cradle of Aviation in Garden City. So Kevin is quite a local celebrity in that sense, and he was just an ordinary kid who went to school in Amityville. We also had in 1969, the Mets won the World Series, and two of the Mets, Ron Swoboda and Ed Kranepool, had a restaurant in North Amityville that they ran, and that was called The Dugout. And we have menu and pictures from the Dugout restaurant. We have a dispatch magazine, which is given out to our members of the Historical Society 4 times a year. And in this latest issue of the dispatch, we have a map of historical markers in Amityville. It tells you where they are, the location, and what the significance is of the marker, just to show you that Amityville has a long history, and we have many, many interesting and varied places that you could come and see in Amityville. And our map would show you where to locate these places. In the Historic Society, we have pictures from businesses, we have pictures of houses. People come in and they like to find out about the history of their house, if there's significance. They like to find out their businesses. We've had some of the newer business owners come in and get pictures of old Amityville, and we make copies for them, blow them up for them, and they hang them in their restaurants or their stores, relating the old to the new. I'd just like to encourage anyone to come in, visit our building, see what we have. If you need help with something, we can try our best to look it up for you. We hope that we will see you in the future sometime coming into the museum. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Richard Handler. I've lived in the village for only 40 years, so I'm a newcomer. I first arrived here in about 1981. I fell in love with the village immediately, and I've made it kind of a lifetime mission to get to know about Amityville, its history, its people, its background, its traditions, and it's been a wonderful pastime, and I'm happy to share a couple of the details that I've learned. One thing that always amazed me was that Amityville was settled in 1658, and I just did the calculation, and that's 361 years ago, which is quite a thing. You know, we walk out of our door and we come into town, we ride up and down Merrick Road, or as they used to say, the Merrick Road, and you realize that men and women from England, Europe, countries all over the world who've chosen to make Amityville their home in a 361-year time, and now we're here enjoying this very special place that we all love. So what I'm about to talk about is not what I know. It's what I've had the privilege of being told by people who've lived their lives before me and have filled me up with lots of nuggets and tidbits that so have enriched my life. Of course, we all know the story of the Ketchums and the Chichesters and the Conklins who came down from Huntington in 1658 and settled in West Neck. And West Neck was the area which was south of the Merrick Road, where Ocean Avenue is today. And by the way, that was just a cow path. And they came here to enjoy the rich resources of what was called salt hay. This was a very rich and fertile place, and the cows would come and the farmers would stay from Mid-Island for the entire summer, and they would congregate here, and little by little a settlement developed. What's also quite interesting and what made this place very formidable was the fact that Amityville was right on the county line. And remember, in 1658, the division between the Dutch and the English settlements was exactly where County Line Road is today, which is essentially a little bit west of State Route 110. So Amityville's been growing all those years. It was farming country on all levels, from the south into the rich, fertile lands to the north. Many brave men and women came and settled in that area north of what is now Sunrise Highway, and worked the soil and grew crops and developed a very vibrant community. Amityville, of course, had the fishing on the south end, and there was always a constant flux of workers coming in and out of the town. That's one of the reasons that South Oaks Hospital developed here in the 1880s, because Amityville was at a crossroads. By 1840, the Long Island Railroad had established a stop here, and as a result, people from New York City were able to have an easy commute. And of course, people from all over the East Coast who came into the city were able to migrate out to Long Island because the Long Island Railroad provided that easy access. And as a result, Amityville became a favored community, not only for work, but also for recreation, because of our rich resources of fishing, beaches, sand, the sun, good restaurants, and lots of good talk. We're celebrating the 125th anniversary of the village. Amityville was incorporated as a separate government unit in 1894. Another reason was that the growing population made it a new requirement that we develop a police force. Amityville is very proud of its police force. It's been in existence since incorporation in 1894, so about 125 years. As transportation grew and the people's ideal of enjoying the sand and the sun and the fishing and the rich resources of the summer community, Amityville developed into a choice recreational spot in the early 1900s, certainly before that, and we were graced by many magnificent hotels that dotted our shoreline. And unfortunately, because of fire and deterioration and old age and so on, they've all been lost. But they were quite noteworthy, as well as the people that came to enjoy them. So when you think of the Hollywood crowd today, or the theater crowd today, who migrate out to the Hamptons in the summer, Amityville was the Hamptons of its day in 1900 to 1920. And famous personages such as the great vaudeville actor Fred Stone, or Annie Oakley, the Marx woman, the sharpshooter, and of course that very famous American commentator Will Rogers. I mean, these were your neighbors in 1900 who chose to make Amityville their home. Amityville today has a population of about just under 10,000 people. And back in the early 1900s, especially as the village grew and its Victorian houses were being constructed, there were about 1,000, 1,500 people in the village. And once Memorial Day hit, the entire population of the village blossomed. And the summer residents came. Most of the houses, those large Victorian houses and those beautifully drawn properties were summer houses. People would come and they'd open them up on Memorial Day. The husbands would stay in Brooklyn, in the city. They'd come out here on the weekends. Their families would be spending the rest of the summer here. And then in Labor Day, The houses would be closed up, and they would sit there and await their occupants until they came again on Memorial Day. That's not the case any longer today. However, Amityville is still probably viewed as a summer community. Our boating, our beaches, our yacht clubs, our fishing, our waterfront. This is a fabulous resource, second only to the people that live here. And we're very proud of that, and I'm sure that all of you take advantage of that as well.
Makes the village the great special place it is all you people out here right now, and everybody that is here and that comes out and supports every event that we have. That is what makes this village the great place it is. So let's continue that. Let's continue that for another 125 years at least.
What happens with what you're doing with this group in the end is you're refreshing and renewing your history. It's important. Amityville is clearly one of those communities that is very much still a community. You know, you have so many great events here within the village, and you know, it's important that you remember your history. You really are a community. You really are neighbors. You really care about one another, and I think with this organization, by keeping that history, it's good stuff. So I have citations for the folks that are being recognized that I'll give you, but I just you know, I know this doesn't sound right, but I really do appreciate this community, and you're real, and your history is real, and you do the right stuff from what you do on 9/11 to the other events because you're family, and that's important.
Carolyn and Al and Virginia to come up. We have proclamations to present.
We would like to thank Carolyn and Al James and the Amityville Record newspaper for sponsoring this documentary. The Record has been reporting the news in Amityville for 115 years.
I'd just like to say, don't you just love the Christmas spirit, which we're having tonight? We're starting it. This is the beginning of it. That's what I love, and what I love about Amityville is that we have that spirit, I feel, 365 days of the year. And that's the best part about Amityville. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Merry Christmas, everybody! Happy 125th anniversary to the Village of Amityville! Ho, ho, ho!
So when you think of Amityville, try to remember a little bit of that history. And also remember that you have a story to tell. I make it my point to sit down with, now I have grandchildren, 3 of them. They're a lot smarter than me. And I sit down, I tell them the stories, and I make sure that they have the benefit of learning the things that I learned from those great men and women that I took the time to listen to. So share a story, write it down, talk to your neighbors, and remember the joys of living in Amityville and spread those themes and that history. Thank you.